Ladies and gentlemen, before you put your money in any business, you should ask questions. There's a common qualification of money in Ghana. It is called hard-earned. It is presumed that every money you earn, we must have worked very hard and toiled for it. Before you invest your money, ask questions. Many of these Ponzi schemes are incorporated as companies. So I'll start with company law. Section 9 of the Companies Act says that a private company should have in its regulations a clause that says that it is prohibited from acquiring shares, from inviting the public to acquire its shares, or to deposit money, whether for fixed periods, interest or not. So when you go to the company, don't be impressed by the certificate of incorporation and the certificate to commence business that are on the walls. Can you ask for their regulations? Ask for their regulations. If they don't give it to you, go to the company's registry. If you are going to invest 500,000, spend 5 cedis to go to the company's registry. Ask for the regulations of the company. Once it's a private company, please go to Regulation 8C. Regulation 8C of any private company. These are the words you will find. Quote. Quote, the company is a private company and is accordingly, C, the company is prohibited from making any invitation to the public to deposit money. I have checked. Every Ponzi scheme has been incorporated as a private company, and their regulation 8C says that the company is prohibited from taking deposits. Remember the regulation number? 8C. 8C. Always look for it. So if a company undertakes this venture without going through the prospectus process, it is a breach of the law, and the law says that all the persons who invited people to bring their money and officers of the company, which include employees, may go to jail. The resulting transaction can be rescinded by the other party, and third parties are entitled to compensation. But it is more. Under Section 219, the Registrar General, when he or she determines that the business of the company is being organized for an otherwise fraudulent or unlawful purpose, can commence investigations. When the Registrar General has enough basis that the company is being used for an illegality, for example, collecting deposits when it's not licensed to do so, the Registrar General will go to court, and the court will appoint an inspector who will take over the books and do a full investigation and present a report to the court. When the report is presented to the court, then the Attorney General will be invited in to prosecute for crimes. The Registrar General can wind the company up, and proceedings, this is law. Look at Section 225 of the Companies Act. Proceedings ought, in the public interest, be brought by the company against the directors, even former directors, against persons to recover property, damages, or compensation to which the company is entitled, and the registrar may bring the action even in the name of the company. So basically, the Registrar General has the power when you are using the company for an unlawful purpose, such as using it to raise deposits when you are not licensed to raise deposits. The Registrar General can stop the business and work with the Attorney General to send you to jail. And that jail term includes employees. And so the Companies Act, which regulates the operation of all companies in Ghana, shows clearly that there's law, but who will enforce it? My conclusion is that Ghana doesn't need any new laws. Every law required to regulate us and even protect us from ourselves and our own greed and fraud exists. But you only hear of them when these things happen, and then we go to sleep. But it doesn't mean a private company cannot take deposits at all. No. You can only take the deposits if you are licensed to take deposits. That's where Bank of Ghana comes in. So there's what they now call the Banks and Specialized Deposit Taking Institutions Act. This is 2016, this is new, but we've always had Banking Act, Act 930. It says, a person shall not accept a deposit from the general public or carry on a deposit-taking business in or from within the country without a license. So I can't just set up my table and say, bring money. I will give it back to you after. No, you need a license. It's under this act that savings and loans companies are licensed, banks are licensed, microfinance institutions are licensed. This is the law that licenses all of them. So you can't take deposits however you disguise it without a license. The law defines deposit. It defines deposit taking. It is comprehensive. And then it makes it an offense to take deposits without a license. So if you take deposits without a license, the company itself could be fined. Directors could be fined and go to jail between 2 and 4 years. And if it's an individual who did it, you could go to jail between 2 and 4 years. The law exists to stop Ponzi schemes. We have had several Ponzi schemes in this country. May I ask a question? Has anybody ever gone to jail? I don't know. Well, someone says no. I don't know. But these laws have existed before the Ponzi schemes. So you should leave there asking your governments why they have never enforced these laws. The sweetness of the pudding is in the eating of it. Let's poke the eye of the cadaver. There are maggots hiding there. It is even an offense to call your business a bank without a banking license. However it is spelled. Without a license. Now let's get to the Securities Industry Act. And thanks, Paul. You've done a fantastic job. The SEC is empowered to control the entire securities industry. It includes licensing all operators. 2 come to mind: broker-dealers and investment advisors. You cannot be a broker-dealer or investment advisor without an SEC license. So you say, as for me, I'm not taking deposits. I am taking commodities. You are involved in a brokerage. You are a dealer. You need a license. So the law has outthought us all. All the Ponzi schemes, the law has outthought them. But I wish I had answers. You cannot engage in dealing in securities in any shape, manner, or form without a license. The word securities is defined to include commodities futures, which means we are holding your asset and we are paying you money in future. It's a securities transaction. Whether it is cocoa, kinky, or tilapia, or aluminium. You cannot say, I have this aluminium, I'm going to trade it and pay you money. It's a commodities futures. It's a securities transaction. You need a license to do it. Ladies and gentlemen, it also defines it to include derivatives. And what are derivatives? It's a financial instrument. So you got a piece of paper, it's an instrument, whose characteristics, this is the law, and value, characteristics and value are dependent on or derived from one or more underlying assets. So it's different from you bought a house. No. If you have a group of houses and you are trading with them, that they are underlying assets, and it's a securities transaction. It's a derivative. And it says that so underlying assets such as a commodity, metals, bond, equity, currency. It's a derivative. You can't do it without a license. And Paul is right. The license is because they want to see exactly what are you doing. How are you able to sustain this? Because if you have indeed found a scheme that can pay 200% a year, and the government itself is paying 19%, it is revolutionary. We should make you president. We should take Ghana's entire budget and give it to you to manage. We must sack the finance minister. And so let SEC know. So we move it from this corner that you are hiding into a national property. So let SEC regulate it. But if you are unwilling, unprepared to be regulated, then the law says you can't do it here. Go and do it anywhere else you want to do it. Not within the 4 walls of Ghana. So it's an offense. SEC can impose a penalty if you do it. They have the power to shut you down and require your books. And if they shut you down and you go back to operating, they have the power to, you will go to jail. So when they beat their chest and say nobody can stop us, when they are stopped, they stop. Because there's jail time. There's jail time. It is a fearful thing to fall in the hands of the law. Remember that. Let me go on to some of the commodities frauds. So they say a metal. We are licensed by Minerals Commission. We have law, the Minerals and Mining Act, which says the Minerals Commission must license any dealing in any metal, any mineral in this country. The license will contain terms and conditions. If you operate without the license or outside your terms and conditions, it's an offense. The company directors will go to jail. So if somebody says, I'm trading in a metal, ask, can I see your Minerals Commission license? When you see it, go to clauses 1 or 2. Often the term is to buy gold from small-scale dealers in Ghana and export same. Standard. Buy gold and export. So you can't buy gold and sell in Ghana except you have a special license. So if your license is to buy gold and sell, how are you buying gold locally? Ghanaians, let's ask questions. And in any event, small-scale mining has been banned for a year. For the last 1 year, small-scale gold mining has been banned. So what have you been buying? You see how obvious this is? That's why I say a Ponzi scheme is where fraud is milking greed. Where fraud is milking greed. I've done with that one. Let me just add this. When all of these happen, so we've seen that the Companies Act can work. We've seen that Securities Industry Act can work. We've seen that the Minerals and Mining Law can work. Our criminal laws can work. Because the underlying scheme is fraudulent. If it's fraudulent, Section 132 of our Criminal Offences Act talks of defrauding by false pretenses, where a person, by means of a false pretense, obtains the consent of another to part or transfer with ownership of a thing. So the money that you were tricked will give you 600% a year. You have actually been defrauded by false pretenses. If the law worked, the person who defrauded you should be making a beeline to jail. If you play Monopoly, you understand, go straight to jail. If you pass go, don't take 200. In another aspect, it could be stealing. Because stealing is simply dishonestly appropriating a thing that is not yours. If the law worked, people will be making a beeline for jail. People who work together for a common purpose to commit crime, so the people who sat down and cooked up Ponzi schemes are guilty of the offense of conspiracy. They ought to be punished for the same level as the substantive crime. Those who helped and facilitated and encouraged it, your offense is called abetment. So today we are sharing it. Those who encouraged and facilitated it, your offense is called abetment. When you dishonestly appropriate a thing which has been vested in you under a trust. So I gave you my money under a trust scheme and you have spent it.